Welcome back to the vlog. I'm glad you're not dead. Right, I've read some seriously questionable beer stories in my time. Glow-in-the-dark lager, bacon flavoured stout, whatever Brewdog we're doing in 2012. But this one might be the weirdest yet. Because according to a recent headline, you might one day be able to get vaccinated by drinking beer. Yes, a pint as a vaccine. Now, before you start cancelling all your GP appointments and heading to the pub, we need to talk about what is actually going on here.
It's Monday, don't groan, don't fear. The Bearded Beer Blog bloke is here. Talking nonsense, beard on show. Grab a brew and watch him go.
So here's the reality. This idea comes from a virologist who's been experimenting with something called vaccine yeast. Instead of injecting a vaccine, he's engineered yeast, the same stuff used in brewing, to produce harmless viral proteins. These proteins are what trigger your immune system to produce antibodies. So in theory, you could deliver a vaccine through something edible, like beer. And yes, he actually tested it on himself. He drank this experimental beer brewed with his modified yeast and claims his body produced antibodies afterwards. Now on paper, this sounds brilliant. No needles, no clinics, no roll your sleeves up and look away, just have a pint, mate. And your immune system gets trained to fight a virus. There's even some early evidence in mice and limited testing that this kind of yeast delivery can trigger an immune response. And the idea behind it is really clever. The yeast acts like a protective delivery system, helping those viral proteins survive your stomach and reach your immune system intact. But here's where we need to calm down a wee bit. This is not a finished product. It's not been approved, it's not been widely tested, and it's definitely not replacing vaccines anytime soon. In fact, the research isn't peer-reviewed, or peer-reviewed, haha. Human testing is basically one guy, and scientists themselves are saying this needs a lot more study. There are also some super serious questions about whether oral vaccines like this can actually produce strong enough immune responses in humans, because your gut is designed to ignore a lot of what you eat. So the idea is interesting, but we're miles away from pop to the pub for your booster. So if it's not ready, why is everyone talking about it? Because it hits a very specific nerve. People don't like needles. Some people don't trust vaccines, fucking lunatics, but a lot of people do like beer. So the idea of vaccine beer sounds less scary, more relatable, and almost fun. And that's exactly why some scientists think ideas like this could help reduce vaccine hesitancy in the future. But, and this is important, that same appeal is also why other scientists are worried it could confuse people about how vaccines actually work. Now, let's bring this back to beer, because here's the slightly uncomfortable truth. This isn't really a beer innovation. It's a delivery method experiment that just happens to use beer. You could, in theory, do the same thing with yogurt, bread, or other fermented foods. Beer just makes it more headline friendly. Because vaccine yogurt doesn't quite hit the same, does it? But sarcasm aside, there is something genuinely interesting here. If this kind of yeast-based delivery works, it could eventually lead to easier vaccination in developing countries, no needle options for certain diseases, and more accessible global healthcare. That's the real story. Not beer cures viruses, but scientists are exploring new ways to deliver vaccines. And beer just happens to be along for the ride. So, let's be crystal clear. You cannot replace vaccines with beer, self-medicate with alcohol, or assume this works outside of a lab experiment. This is early stage science. Interesting, yes. Promising, maybe. Ready for your local taproom? Absolutely not. So next time you see a headline like, beer acts like a vaccine, take a second, because behind the clickbait, there is a fascinating scientific idea. It's just not what it sounds like. Let me know in the comments. Would you ever trust a vaccine beer if it became real? Or is this one step too far, even for craft beer? Like, subscribe, do all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one.